All right, does everyone have my blank screen showing up there? Cool. All right. So this week, I want to go over the first couple of chapters in your Solidworks book. We're just going to go over real quick. Oop, sorry about that. Um, we're going to go over real quick the first couple of chapters with like setup and stuff like that, how to use the different menus, and then we're going to go through one of the exercises. Um, so, does everyone have the textbook? Correct, yeah. I have the 2019 as well. There's not too much difference between the versions, so you should be fine with either one. Anyone else have a question or not have it? Oh, no worries. Okay, I'm just gonna go through the first couple of chapters, so you can kind of follow along. I'm gonna be showing you on the screen what I'm going through, but when you do get the book, you can maybe go over that again, and I'll have the lecture recorded and posted, so you can just if you need review once you get the book, you can always do that. So I'm gonna start with let's see, the introduction. It's page 21 in Roman numerals. Does everyone have that? Okay, cool. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open SolidWorks and just click part, like we did before. So on that page, you'll see a bunch of arrows pointing to different stuff in SolidWorks. It tells you where the display pane is, the pull-down menus, the feature manager design tree, reference planes, the origin, task pane, and some other stuff. So uh, let's just turn the page. And then the first thing, I pointed this out last week, but once you start a sketch, so you're going to go to the upper left corner and start a sketch. Once you select that, you'll see the origin is kind of where all the planes intersect here. So it's basically going to be the center of whatever plane you choose to do your drawing in. It shows it on that page. It's not like it doesn't really show up here, um, but that's where the origin is. So when you click a plane, you're going to see the origin here. Um, and whenever you do a drawing, you're pretty much going to want to start at the origin, unless there's some weird circumstance where you don't, but that's usually not going to be the case. You're almost always going to start your drawing at the origin because in order for your drawing to be fully defined, it always has to have relations to the origin. So like if I were to say make a line up here somewhere, even if I gave it a dimension, um, even if I gave it a dimension, let's just give it a dimension real quick. It's still going to be blue because it's not going to be related to the origin. So if it doesn't have a defined distance from every point on this line to the origin, then it's going to still be blue. So like you could say this end point to here is a distance. So let's just do that. Um, it's still blue because it's not a straight line. So it's it you're not calling out the angle that the line is, or it's a straight line, sorry, it's not a horizontal line. So you're not calling out the angle of the line in relation to, the origin or the other planes in play here. So like you're on like the plane that is represented by the x-axis in geometry. Um, the y-axis is going to be, well, I guess you'd say your x-axis is this way. Your y-axis is here, but this angle in relation to the y-axis is not defined. Does that kind of make sense? Um, so it's not horizontal, and you haven't defined which way it's really leaning. You also haven't defined your distance from the origin to this point on that axis. You've only defined this direction distance. So the easiest way to have a fully defined drawing almost always is to start it. To start it at the origin, because then you're only going to need to do like one, maybe two dimensions, right? So we'll do a line here again. We're going to start at the origin. It's going to be a random angle. And then let's give it a dimension. So that's how long the line is. Let's just say 4. Oh wow. It's still not horizontal, so it's still blue. But you can then dimension like from here to here. I'm not sure if that's doing exactly what I want it to do, but let's just go with it. Okay, so now you have the length of the line and also the distance from this point to this point, which, if you recall from geometry, that's basically the two sides of a triangle. So you have the hypotenuse of the triangle, which is the length of the line. It would probably be easier to tell if it was a more extreme angle, but then you also have this distance, which is a horizontal measurement of the distance from this corner of your triangle, I guess, to this corner of your triangle, if that makes sense. So it's fully defined now. Whereas if yeah. So here, let's do this. So the distance, yeah, so you need to know the distance from here to here in a straight line, which is going to be the length of your line. So if we do it again with more of an angle, maybe it'll be easier to see. But that's the length of that. So like, again, with the triangle analogy, that's that side of a triangle. And then we're going to go, like this. And that's the other side of the triangle. So, so I don't know. I guess most of you have taken geometry fairly recently, if not for school here. Then at some point you'll remember, like with a triangle, you need to know two sides and one angle to know the actual size of the triangle. So right here, all we're trying to know is the length of this side of the triangle. But in order to know that, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to easiest explain this. I don't know if I was going in the right direction there, but in order to know exactly where that line is in your space here, you need to know a couple of things, because you need to know the angle. Gosh, I keep getting these notifications. I'm sorry. You need to know the angle of like the direction the line is pointing. So if you think of your origin here as like the x-axis and the y-axis, you need to know the angle of this line on between those axes. So you need to know exactly which way it's pointing. Otherwise, it's not going to be fully defined. So instead of defining the angle here, we just defined two sides of the triangle, if that kind of makes sense. I'm maybe not doing the best job explaining, but okay. All right, cool. So another thing you can do, I guess this might help make it a little more obvious too, is if we make another line like this, we make that line horizontal. And then we can say, oops, I don't want that. We can say this angle here is that many degrees. And now it's going to be over-defined because SolidWorks already knows what that angle is, right? Because we already defined the two distances. So we'll just say make it driven, and then it won't be over-defined. But instead of defining this distance here, you could also just do this angle, but you have to have another line to relate that dimension to. So if you didn't want a line here, you would have to have this distance here. Anyway, so that's basically kind of me trying to explain why you always want to start at the origin. It just makes your life a lot easier, especially when you're getting into more complex drawings and you're trying to make sure everything's fully defined. It makes it a lot easier to have, your origin just be a point in your drawing versus having it off yonder somewhere and having to figure out exactly how it relates to every part of your drawing. Yeah, so these green boxes, we're going to get there in a minute, but they refer to relations in your drawing. So a relation is not a dimension, but it's basically a definition of how something in the drawing relates to something else. So for instance, this relation right here is going to say that this point where I started this line coincides with the origin. So if you click on it, maybe if I hover over it, yeah, so it says coincident point one at origin of part one. So, just disappeared. I'm trying to remember how to get that to like show up on the sidebar. There it is. So you got to double click it and then it'll come up over here. But if your point here has been defined to be coincident with the origin, then that relation will exist. So you've got, I'm not sure why 0.7 is there, but you've got a coincident relation with, let's see, I selected 0.7. I'm not sure why I think it's trying to show me relations. Let's do, okay, so coincident one. I'm trying to remember how to show exactly what it means. If you hover over it, you'll be able to see, basically. So it says that point and the origin are coincident. This one over here says that this line is horizontal. So when I drew this line going this way, remember I said I was going to try and make it horizontal. And usually when you're drawing things, if you want it to be horizontal, it'll kind of snap to the horizontal relation for you. Let's get out of there. No, but that's a relation. So like this, I'll make a horizontal line right here. See how it kind of snaps to a horizontal. I think that was like a dotted line or something that I drew there, but let's try again. So another type of relation, like that's a horizontal line. I'm not sure why it's showing up really skinny like that. Um, and then say I were to draw another line down here, I can give it a relation to be, so I'll just draw it like that. Um, and then I'm going to say add relation. I'm going to click this line and I'm going to click this line and I'm going to say I want them to be parallel. And that'll make that line parallel to this line up here. And then you see the little relation symbol for parallel lines here. And it shows up on both lines that you gave that relation to. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, actually. I was going to go over that That's kind of in the next chapter of the book, but let's just try and go through some of these toolbars and menus and stuff real quick. So you'll see on page 22 there, we talked about the origin. There's a couple of toolbars that we can look at here too. So um, so that's just talking about how you can move them around. But for instance, let's see, we've got this toolbar over here on the right. So you can kind of like in any kind of software, you can expand or make it smaller. Why do I keep getting? I do not want to restart now. Please stop. Okay. So then you also have like this toolbar over here. That's just a little sidebar and it's kind of hidden. You've got this up here. You can move all of these around. If you go to your tools menu, let's so go to the middle of the next page. So if you go to customize, oh shoot, let me see if I can get here easily. So it's down here near the bottom. And then if you go to toolbars, where is toolbars? I haven't, I guess we're in toolbars. So right here you can kind of change what you've got showing up. And it's been a little bit since I've played around with this, but like if you go in shortcut bars, you can click on different stuff. You can just customize your different toolbars. So let's go to the next page. If you want to play around with this some, I actually haven't really moved my toolbars around because I'm used to having them this way. So I don't really mess with that too much. But if you're having trouble like having things show up or you don't see things that you want to see, I just right clicked on here and you can like go in here and it'll give you things, different options. You can go customize menu. So the other thing you can do is you can grab these toolbars, and I'm trying to remember how to do that. You can grab this one over here and you can like you can float it in your screen. So I'm trying to remember how I did that as well. You'll kind of figure out different ways to get your different tools as you play around with it. I don't want to break anything right now for myself so I can keep teaching the class, but you can also go in here, go to customize, and it'll bring you the same menu. That's true. Although then I'd have to go in there and set everything up. Um, so I'm gonna play around with how to move my own toolbars around, and maybe we can go over it some more later if you guys are having trouble with any, if you're not having things not showing up, or if there's things that you want to have show up that aren't. But in general, it's pretty safe to just use the default screen. That's what I've always used in SolidWorks, and pretty much anything I need I can find in here. As we get to more advanced features, we'll talk about how to find those and stuff too. But yeah, for right now, let's keep going to the next couple of things in here. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. You can also customize the different things that your mouse does. So I kind of went over a couple of things that you can do with your mouse last week, but like if you left click and drag, you can select everything in your drawing. If you want to like just select it all and delete it or anything like that, or you want to select it all and copy it to a new drawing. If you right click, you get this menu, which is pretty handy because you can do like dimensioning, you can exit your sketch from here. You can do a whole bunch of other things. You can show your relations over here, like we were just talking about. Um, you can get to sketch tools. You can do all the stuff in here. So you can trim, which we talked about. Um, and then your scroll bar is going to zoom in and out. So if you scroll forward as if you were scrolling up, it'll zoom out. Scroll toward you as if you were like scrolling down on a page, and it'll zoom in. And then wherever you move your mouse on the screen, it's going to zoom to where your mouse is. So like if I put my mouse up here, it's going to zoom toward that spot. If I put my mouse right in the middle of my drawing, it's going to zoom to where my mouse was on the drawing, kind of. So it's just going to keep going to there. Say I put the mouse over here, it's going to zoom to that area. So that's kind of handy, like if you want to get to a different part of your sketch, especially when you're doing something complicated, like say I have something in this corner here that I want to get close to. I can just zoom to it by putting the mouse near there. And then if you click the scroll bar, you can drag your picture around. So I'm holding down my scroll bar and you can drag it so you can see it from different angles. And then if you want to get back to the front of your drawing, the plane that you were in, you can go to this cube up here. View orientation is what it's called. Hit the little down arrow and it's going to show you each side of basically a cube that your drawing is in the middle of. So click the front face of that and it'll bring you right back to the front. You can also go over to your sketch over here on the left. You can let's see, left click that, and then you'll see this little plane with an arrow pointing up, and it says normal to when you hover over it. So basically, if you go normal to your sketch, it means you're facing your sketch head on. So you can click that, and it'll actually flip it backwards if you're already facing it. But oops, flip it back around. So yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So where did you say you right clicked? Just like on your screen like this? Okay. Yeah, okay, I see where you are. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know about a search. In here, they're all alphabetical, so if you are looking for the Boss Base Extrude, for instance, that's actually not going to show up on your 2D sketch. Because Boss Base Extrude is when you make it three-dimensional. So you're going to go into features for that, and we haven't gotten there yet. But if you click that features tab in the upper left, right next to sketch, you'll see this is where you start making things three-dimensional. So, as, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Mhm. So, yeah, so basically, there's not actually that many tools, and the reason they put this at the beginning of the chapter is so that you'll know, like, oh, I haven't covered how to use that yet. I might want to review before I try to do this exercise. However, there isn't really a way that I know of to, say, search for a tool. So, if you look, let's just go through that on page 3-2 real quick. So the first one they say is insert sketch. We all know how to find that at this point. Line, circle, those are things that are right in your sketch features right here. Um, Add geometric relations. I was just talking about that a minute ago, but that's this display delete relations here, and then you go add relation. That's something that we're kind of just starting to go over, but that's also going to be right in your sketch menu here. Dimension, we've gone over a little bit. That's smart dimension right here. Sketch fillet, that's a new one that we haven't actually really gone over yet, but that's right here. It's the last of your little sketch tools. So that's how you make a corner curved, or you can also do, oops, you can also do chamfer right here. So there's a couple options there, but right here they're talking about the fillet. So that's kind of like a line or a circle. It's another one of your sketch tools. So say I wanted to sketch one here. I'm going to say entities to fillet. I don't have a right angle in this drawing, so there's not really a good candidate for that, but let's do this. Let's make a rectangle. We'll go sketch fillet, and then we'll click this line and this line, and it's going to put a fillet on that corner. So you'll see as if we zoom in, and you can change the radius of the fillet. That's just the dimension it automatically gave it. But that's what that means. Trim entities, we kind of went over that in the last lecture. And then the extrude we haven't gone over. That's making things three-dimensional. So in the interest of not overloading everybody with information, we're not going to go there quite yet. So to find different sketch tools, if you're not sure, if you see something on this list and you're like, I've never done that, I have no idea what they're talking about, you can go into your tools here. You can go to your customize menu. That's not the best place to go though. Up here is sketch tools, and that'll show you a whole bunch of tools right here. So this first section is kind of different ways to automatically make a shape without having to sketch it out manually. So like the fillet, the chamfer, those are going to do that to your corners without you having to like draw an arc. Offset entities, that's like if you have an entity already and you want to copy it. We'll go over that a little later, but these are all basic sketch tools. These are, they kind of have them in categories here. So like you can do this stuff down here like mirror, so copy it but backwards. Um, Move, rotate. scale. We're going to go over all of that stuff later on, so don't worry about it too much right now, but then down at the bottom here you'll see customize menu, which is kind of the same as the customize we were looking at before. And you can click or unclick the things you want to have showing up. So these are all checked on mine right now. They all show up on my menu up here. Does that make sense? Does that help a little bit? Yeah, that's also a good idea. And uh, let's just try something real quick. Let's say we don't know. Yeah, let's do, since you're just talking about it, let's search this real quick. Oh, I have my internet connection up, so I'm not sure. Let's launch local help. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I'll look into that and see if we can sort it out. Because it should just bring up like a search screen, like if you were to search in, Windows for something, it should just bring up like a screen and give you some answers. But uh, I'll see if I can't figure out what's going on with that. Theoretically, you would be able to search for something up there and it would just pull up some help. Let's try this. See if that brings anything up. Try searching again. Connection failure. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's doing that. Someone did tell me that there's kind of a bug with SolidWorks right now that might be affecting a few features, so that could be part of it. But I'll look into that and I'll get back to you all. Um, okay, cool. Yeah. Another thing too that I did this a lot when I was taking this class was I um I used YouTube a lot. Like pretty much anything you can search like SolidWorks tutorial on how to do X, Y, or Z, and somebody out there has done it. So that's a really helpful resource sometimes if, you're like, okay, how do I make, this particular shape happen? And you can find examples of where somebody else has done it. So, all right. So let's go to chapter 1. It's just going to go over system options real quick. This might be kind of helpful. So, setting up system options. Um, Let me see. So, let's go first up here to let's see. Trying to figure out where I'm at here. I thought it was in the file menu, but sorry guys. I'm trying to remember how you even get to this so I can show you. Might be under settings actually. That would, I guess, make sense. All right. So all right, so let's go into our system options menu. So if you just click this settings gear here, I think it is also in the file menu, but now that I'm in here, I can't see it. Okay, I don't know what's, oh, I meant to hit cancel. So if you go to file, I guess, yeah, I think that's the only way to get there. I thought there was like a file, and then like options or file and then setup or something like that, but so, hmm yeah. So basically, if you go through this chapter, it's going to walk you through every thing in this list here. We're not going to go through the whole thing right now because the book kind of gives you a pretty comprehensive summary of what you can do in there. But just for starters, let's just look at the general here up at the top. So you can select this. It'll say when you start SolidWorks, it's always going to reopen the last thing you had open. That might be helpful if you're working on a big project and every time you open SolidWorks, you want it to reopen the same thing. Um, but otherwise, I'm not really sure why you would do that. Um, and then all these options, the book kind of goes through, so we won't talk about that too much. Um, we've got drawings options here. So again, all of these, you can play around and once you get kind of more familiar with SolidWorks, some of these will make sense to you and you'll decide like, oh, I want to do this or I don't want to do that. So like with display style, you can have hidden lines always show up. You can have them never show up, or you can have them be removed. Um, so I guess it might be helpful if I just show you real quick. Let's like go to, let's just go ahead and make one of these three-dimensional. We'll walk over how to do that a little later, but okay, it's telling me I can't because I have an open contour, which is not a fully closed shape. So I'm just gonna, got all these noises going on here. Okay, so we have like a skinny little three-dimensional shape here. But display style is going to change. You can also go here and it'll change it really easily. Okay, so you can change your display style here too. So like I just took away the shadow. You can make the background gray and give it a shadow. Um, you can, this is the default. This is kind of the easiest one to look at. So it's typically what I use, but um, when you start getting into three-dimensional shapes, that'll all matter a little more. So let's go back in here. You can change the colors that it shows. So, for example, let's just edit this. You can make everything light blue. I don't know if that changed. I'm not sure what that actually changed. I don't think it changed the whole drawing, but oh, that's just the background. Let's try doing this. All right. So it's not really showing up for me here, but um, if you play around with this, you'll eventually get to where you can change the different colors of things. I'm gonna set it to defaults. And I've never really played around with the different colors, so again, I can't really speak to what exactly those are gonna do, but you'll end up with different shapes that show up in different colors if you mess around with it a bunch. So let's skip ahead a little bit. Sketch options might be kind of helpful. So let's go down here. So auto rotate view normal to sketch plane on sketch creation and sketch edit. So that one's kind of cool because if you check that, um, I was showing you how to go normal to your sketch so you were looking at it like head on. Before, it's going to automatically do that every time you go into that sketch to edit it. So if it was in a weird position or something, it's going to auto rotate back to the normal view. And you don't have to go in and do it yourself every time. Use fully defined sketches. Basically, it's only going to use your sketch if you're trying to put it into other features if it's fully defined. Display arc center points and part assembly sketches. So that's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to show the midpoint of any arc that you draw. That can be helpful or not. It depends on what you want. I've got it set to always show that. Um, Display entity points. That's basically like if you make a rectangle, it's going to show the points at the corners of the rectangle. Um, so let's go back to the sketch here. All right, so see how it didn't zoom back normal to my sketch? That's because I didn't have that first option selected. So let's go here. We'll go normal too. Now it's back where I want it. So basically that one about the points, you can see there's a point here. It's going to show up whenever you're looking at the sketch. So, and that was display entity points. So if I uncheck that and click OK, see how now there's no point here unless I hover over it and then it shows up. So I like having that showing up because then I can see where my corners are and I can see where my midpoints are and stuff like that. So I could go through all of these, but we'll be here all night. So I'm just going to say okay. But if you're going through those menus, if there's something that you want to change or you have questions, let me know and we'll go over that stuff some more. Oh, it talks about colors on page 1-5. So if you're interested in doing more with those. Yeah, well, you can change the colors of different things. So if you go in here, we'll go back to colors. It looks like there's a bunch of different options. You can pick a different color scheme, so like blue highlight, and it'll that'll be like your color scheme for the whole thing. But so like in here you can check whatever you want to change the color of. So like, and I'm not sure what top gradient color and bottom gradient color, what that really means. I think it's like when you have different types of display, it's the different color gradients that are going to be on your 3D part. So yeah. Um, so when we were in the different display types here, I think there was one that had like where you could see kind of a gradient. I think, it might have been like this one of these backgrounds or something. There's different stuff that you can play around with, and like I encourage you to definitely play around with all that stuff. There's a bunch of cool features in here and you can make things look however you want pretty much. And like if you look at stuff other people have done in SolidWorks, like really complex assemblies and stuff, like they make things look like the real life thing. Um, I did one when I was taking CAD 2. We had like a final project where we could basically make an assembly of whatever we wanted. It just had to have a certain number of parts in it, and it had to have a certain level of complexity. And I found this guy who does tutorials, and I can't remember his name, but like he did all these different tutorials, and like he in SolidWorks he built like an entire Aston Martin car. He did like a yacht. He did all this crazy stuff and like made it look like the real thing. And so if you want to, if you eventually get like super advanced and you want to do stuff like that, you can definitely make things any color you want, and you can change how things look. You can change the material it looks like they're made out of. Like I think this is supposed to be aluminum or something. But you can go in and like change the material that your part is made out of, and it's going to look like that material. I could make this like blue plastic if I wanted to, and it would be blue and it would look plasticky, I guess. Um, so it gets pretty advanced. You could probably go in here. I don't remember. It's been a while since I changed materials, but we'll get to that at some point this quarter. Um, Might have been in here. No, it's down here somewhere. Now I'm trying to remember, but okay. Well, there's a way that you can change the material, and then you can actually also, like, if it's fully defined, you can measure the actual mass of the part that you drew, which is kind of cool. Um, so like, because it's programmed in like, 1 cubic meter of aluminum weighs this much or whatever. So that's actually not mass, that's weight. But like, say you have a meter this way by a meter this way, and then it's like half a meter thick, it's going to be able to tell you like that's, you know, X number, that's like half a cubic meter. Um, and then it'll also tell you how much it weighs depending on the material it's made out of. So that's another cool thing about SolidWorks, is that like you can not only model stuff, but then you can kind of find out the properties of whatever it is you're modeling without having a real physical aluminum part. You can say like, if I made this in real life, it would weigh this much. So that's kind of handy. Um, let's keep going in the book. I think we can probably just move to the next chapter. If you guys want to go ahead and skim through those first couple of chapters at your leisure. Play around with the different menus and stuff. Let me know if you have questions, and we'll figure all that stuff out. So chapter 2 is setting up the document properties. So we're going to go back here. I'm going to go to that next tab. This is all a little bit boring, so sorry. This isn't the most like thrilling class ever, but it's just good to have kind of an understanding of your different options and menus and everything. So in document properties, oh, you know what? I think this is what I was just talking about. That's kind of cool. Maybe not, but yeah, no, this wasn't where you find how how to change the material, but you can change the drafting standard. So like this is going to be, um, these are the different standards that you're using when you're making your part. So like it's going to change, you change these, it's going to change the units of measurement and stuff like that based on whatever drafting standard, whatever that drafting standard that you're using uses. um, and then annotations. Um, so you can change your arrow size, your font height, a bunch of stuff in there. So like it's going to tell you these are all, so basically after you pick your drafting standard, anything that you change in here is going to modify that standard. So like for the one that I had, I well, I had ANSI, but as soon as I change something else, it's going to change that to the standard but modified because it's not strictly that standard anymore. So like these are all dependent on what standard you're using. Um, let's go to dimensions. And that's going to be on page 2-6. So in here you can change how you do your dimensions. So it's gonna basically it's just gonna show up differently. So like let's go back to our sketch here. Let's go normal too. So see how like this dimension you're seeing this type of arrow, and then this is how the number is displayed. If you go to that how you can change basically the display in your document properties. You can change the way that your dimensions are displayed. And that's helpful because like say you work for a company and they use Solidworks to make all their mechanical drawings, but they have a standard way of making those drawings. They say we're always going to use this format. We're going to have our numbers look like this, because most companies do that. They want to keep everything consistent within their set of products. So they're going to come up with, a whole drafting standard, and they're going to say our arrows always look like this. Our dimensions always have an R right here that denotes that it's a radius. And it's going to be uppercase versus lowercase, So stuff like that. It's all details, but this is where you change all of that. So if your company says, no, we're not using a solid black arrow, we're going to use a white arrow, then you would go in here to change that. That would be in annotations. So let's do this. Didn't change, but that's basically yeah, let's go back to my normal drafting standard, but that's basically how all of that works. So that's not going to be a huge deal in class, but it's going to be a bigger deal when you're, working for a company and they're saying like, this is the standard that we use. This is how we do everything. And you have to make drawings for them, and your drawings have to match their standard. So let's go back in here. So you can change the way that like dimensions are displayed. You can change the way angles are displayed, arcs, diameters. So that's basically, that whole chapter just goes through all of that. Again, if you have questions, if you're going through this on your own and you want to get more detail on anything, let me know. But this is kind of cool. So a lot of this comes into play when you're making a drawing. So right now we're doing a sketch. Let's exit sketch. Okay, so let's see. I want to do a new feature here. One second. So if you go back to your sketch and you do the normal to thing, if you started your sketch on an origin, it'll show up. Um, it'll show up as soon as you go normal to the sketch. Let me get back in here again, so I can. You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm going to exit sketch. I'm gonna delete this because it's getting in my way now. All right. So let's actually let's just do a brand new thing here because okay. So you lost this arrow and now you just have a dot. Are you sure that it's the origin? Because um it should always show up like this. But the best way to do that is if you go over on the left here, you got your menu and then your origin, and you can if this little I isn't crossed out here, that means your origin got hidden. So you want to fix that. So just click on it and it'll unhide. And then you can go normal to your origin and it'll zoom to where the origin is right in the center. So let's say I start sketching. All right. And then say I like zoom out and I zoom way over here. I can go origin, then I can go normal too, and it'll zoom right back to where the origin is in the middle. Does that make sense? You can flip it around like that. Did that answer your question? Okay. So that means your origin shouldn't be hidden then. Let's see. Did you try doing the little normal to? So this little square with an arrow pointing up from it. Click on that and it should zoom to where your origin is and then you should be able to see it. Are you not able to find your origin or is it invisible? I guess that's the real question. Did you get it? So the other thing is if you're not in your sketch, so if you go exit sketch, then it'll disappear. So then you got to go back up here to your sketch in the upper left, hit a little down arrow, and then click sketch, or you can just click sketch right here. But usually if you're out of the sketch, they'll ask you if you want to start a new one. You can also go down here, click on your sketch in your menu right here, and then click edit sketch, and then your origin should show back up. So usually if it's not showing up, it's either hidden or you're not actually in the sketch, so you can't see it. Does that kind of answer the question? You got it? Okay, so you exited out of the sketch completely. Yeah, that's usually, if it's not showing up, either you've got it hidden right here with this little eye, or you're not actually in your sketch, so you just have to click and then edit sketch. All right, so let's go ahead and go to um chapter 3 here, and we're gonna do part of one of these exercises. So we're just going to go through how to do a sketch with a whole bunch of relations. Um, so if you go to page 3-6, so we're just going to go, let's see. The first part is just how to start a new part and stuff. So we're just going to start on 3-6. And let's exit the sketch. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to start over. So, all right. So if you all want to go sketch, we'll go front plane. And if you want to follow along with me in SolidWorks, as best you can. So we're going to start in the front plane. And we're going to start with a line. So hopefully you've got your origin right there in the middle, and you can see the little orange dot. That's where we're going to start. So we're going to select line up here, and we're going to go click, and there's two ways to do your line. So you can click and hold the mouse down and drag up to where you want your line to end, and then release. The other thing you can do, so that's how I did that line, but if you all just want to draw a line whichever way works for you. The other thing you can do is you can do a single click on that point where you want to start, move the mouse over, and then do another single click to end the line. And then it's going to let you keep going if you do it that way. It's going to give you this option to continue with another line or an arc. If you hover back over it, you can just hit escape to get out of that. Is everyone still with me? Do you have two lines? So just go up and over. So once you have those two lines, we're going to do a third one. So we're going to start at that point at the end of that second line there, and we're going to go straight back down and then click to end the line. So basically this exercise is pretty simple, but the part that's going to be interesting is the adding relations section of the exercise. So I'm just going to continue ahead a little bit here. I'm going to do a couple more lines. So we're going to want to end up with 4 little towers here that are all connected. And mine's not going to look exactly like the book because it's not dimensioned or anything. But if you just want to kind of do the same thing that I'm doing and zigzag down. Okay, and then your last line, you're going to want to go straight down from that fourth little tower. Um, and you're gonna want your line to be uh, you're gonna want it to be on the same level as the origin where you started. So you'll see as you go down with this line, it becomes a well, it gets longer, and then a dotted line is gonna show up. I just did two line segments there, but um, a dotted line is going to show up when it is in line with the origin. So try that one more time. So we go straight down, and you see the dotted line that shows up when you get to where you're level with the origin there. So you're going to click to end your line there. And that's a relation. So that point is horizontal with the origin, basically. That's going to be the relation that's added. And that's when those dotted lines show up, it means that the drawing is automatically adding a relation for you. It's the relation that that point has. So if I moved the mouse up and down, that point would be in a different spot and it would no longer have that relation. But when that point is right here, it's on the same horizontal axis as the origin. So that point has a relation to the origin. Yeah. So the only thing that, oops, I didn't mean to add a line there. The only thing that is so basically, I guess, the relation, so the same thing happens with relations that happens with dimensions where it can become overdefined pretty easily. So the drawing is going to automatically add relations for you, but say this point is on the same horizontal axis as the origin. That relation is going to go away once you make a horizontal line connecting the two, because if there's a horizontal line connecting the two, it means that they both have to be on that same line, right? Um, so having another relation would make it overdefined. And since right now we're kind of relying on the software to make those relations for us, it's not really going to, I mean, it's not going to add stuff that would overdefine it. Does that make sense? Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. So, and the thing, I guess the thing that's tricky is it's pretty easy to also end up with your drawing overdefined. It's also pretty easy to avoid because once you start adding dimensions, it's going to tell you before it lets you overdefine something. It's going to say, hey, if you add this dimension you're trying to add, it's going to overdefine your drawing. Are you sure you want to do that? And then you just select no. And so it can be really tricky to figure out how to fully define a drawing without overdefining it. I think that's where it gets really hard. Because a lot of the time, you'll think, well, of course I can add a dimension here. This doesn't have a dimension on it. But then it turns out that that particular area of the drawing already has a bunch of relations going on that will cause a dimension to overdefine the drawing. So, all right. So, we're gonna uh next we're gonna move on to the next step in the exercise. Um, so let's go to page 3-10. Adding geometric relations is what it says at the top. So we're going to go click Add Relation under Display or Delete Relations. So we're going to go up here. I'm going to go Add Relation. And then you're going to have this little blue box show up on your menu on the left. And it's going to say Selected Entities above it. So you're going to select a couple of entities that you want to add a relation to. So the first the first step they're giving us is they want us to make these four horizontal lines across the top the same um, the same length as each other. So we're going to click each of those lines. And then we're going to say equal down here, and it's going to make them all the same length. Did everyone see that? Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're just adding a relation that says that they're all equal. So then we only have to dimension one of them. Um, yeah. Here, let's do it again. Yeah. So we're going to go display delete relations, hit this little down arrow, and then add relation under there. So it's that little two perpendicular lines. So click add relation. You're going to select each of these lines. And now I think I already added the relation and it's going to tell me I can't do it again. But, oh, maybe not. All right, so I clicked each of those lines and you'll see they each show up here. So you've got line 2, line 7, line 11, and line 15. Your numbers might be different depending on, you know, exactly how you drew your sketch, but it should look something like that. You'll have 4 lines showing up here. And then you're going to say equal right here. And I don't think I can click it again because I already have that relation added. But click equal and then hit the little check mark. And it's going to show equal length for the relation up here. So it's going to be a little green box with 2 lines in it. And then you can hover over each one and it's going to say equal length. All right, is everyone still with me? Cool. All right. So you'll see at the bottom of page 310, it walks you through how to do that. And then it says the top 4 lines are now equal in size. Number 6, we're going to add a collinear relation. So that basically means if 2 lines are collinear, it means they're, you could, you know, form one, they basically form one broken line. So there's several lines, but they're all in line with each other. So we're going to make these 3 lines here collinear. So we're going to do the same thing again, display delete relations, hit the little down arrow, and you're going to see add relation under there. You're going to click that. If you're still seeing selected entities in here, you can just click each one and then hit the delete key to get rid of them. So you're going to want to do that first so that you don't make anything collinear that you don't want collinear. So just get rid of everything that's in that box. So all you see is the little blue box and it says selected entities above it. There's nothing in your blue box. Once you have that, you're going to click each of these 3 lines that you're making collinear. So they're going to be the 3 lines in between your 4 towers here. So click each of those. And then you'll see the little collinear option down here under add relations. You're going to click that and it's going to make them all in line with each other. I did not. I just made them all equal to each other. So not yet. Yeah, we haven't added any dimensions yet. That doesn't come until later. So the problem with starting to add dimensions is that you can end up with your drawing overdefined if you start adding relations afterwards. So it's easier to get all your... Mhm. Oh, it's all right. You can also just delete your dimensions. If they're not hurting your drawing, you can just leave them there. The only thing is if you start getting that pop-up saying, "Hey, your drawing is about to be overdefined," you might want to just delete your dimensions so that we can do the exercise with the relations. All right. Correct. They're all related to each other. So the relation is that the tops of the four towers are all the same length. So we don't have a defined length. We just know that they're all the same. All right. So the next step was we made the three lines in between our towers collinear. So that means they're all in line with each other, and you can see this dotted line in between. It shows that this is basically one continuous broken line here. I'll just walk through that again real quick. So you're gonna add a relation. Okay, cool. All right, is everybody else with me? Anybody not with me? No? All right, cool. All right, so we're gonna go to the next page, 313. So now we're gonna start adding dimensions. So we're gonna start with the horizontal dimensions. You're gonna go smart dimension, and then you're gonna click line 1 over here on the left. And instead of just using this dimension, you don't want to add that yet. You're going to click line 2, and it's going to give you the distance between those two lines, which is basically the same as giving a dimension to the top of that tower there. So we're going to click that, and we're going to say that that is 0.5 meters. We're just going to do it exactly the way they do it in the book. So you should have that dimension down there. Next, we're going to go line 1 to the beginning of the second tower, and we're going to make that one 2 meters. All right, and you might end up with your drawing overlapping here like this, and it's going to get confusing because you're making these distances bigger than what they already were. So there's a couple ways to fix that. You can hit escape to get out of your dimensioning tool, and you can just drag the end of the drawing over. You can take your other tower that is in the way there, and you can drag that over. And that way you'll have a less confusing shape here. So, is everyone still with me there? All right. So we're going to go smart dimension. Again, we're going to do line 1 here. And then we're going to click the beginning of the third tower and add a dimension between those. And the book says they want that to be 4 meters. So we're going to make it 4 meters. All right, and then the final vertical dimension here, or horizontal dimension, I guess. We're doing horizontal dimensions. So the final one is going to be click line 1, and then the beginning of your fourth tower. And that's going to be 6.5. So, and as you do this, you'll probably have to zoom out a few times because you're going to be making these dimensions bigger. So okay. It's probably because your sketch was pretty small to begin with. So when you start adding dimensions, a lot of the time you're going to end up with things changing shape in really weird ways. Because, like, say everything in your drawing all fits into 1 meter, and then you say, well, I want everything bigger. I'm going to add a dimension here that says it's 2 meters. All of a sudden, that's going to be the biggest part of your drawing because everything else is still tiny. So, so it should be fine. You'll just need to zoom out to where you can see everything. And then, I don't know if you saw what I did a second ago, but when I added one of the dimensions, things were overlapping, so it kind of looked like this. Um, Yeah. So what you can do if you end up with that, is it's gonna look all messed up, but don't panic because it's fixable. You can just drag uh the parts of your drawing that are overlapping outward so that they're not overlapping anymore. So like I could take this, I guess I can't drag that one around right now, but I can change the heights of my towers. Yeah, so basically you can grab a line that's blue and you can move it around. I can even change this if I want to. But yeah, if you end up with everything overlapping like this, just identify uh what needs to move. So if you look at the bottom of your drawing, you'll see this line here. You know that that needs to be longer because one of your towers is way out here and it shouldn't be. So grab this part of the drawing right here, this what you know is supposed to be your last line, and just drag that out until it's not overlapping. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky when you start dimensioning stuff. It'll all start changing shape and getting wonky on you. So it's good to kind of dimension things as you go a lot of the time because then you'll end up like having things the right size when you get to the end and you won't have things get all disproportionate and weird on you. So, all right, I think I lost one of my dimensions here. I'm going to go ahead and add this back in. So, and that was 6.5. All right. So then if you want to turn the page to 314, let's see. You know what? I made a mistake. This isn't 6.5. This, get rid of that. Oops. We want it to be 6.5 to the opposite end. So you want your last dimension to be from the first line to the very last line over here. Um, all right, and then we're going to start adding the vertical dimensions. So we'll start with the first one. Oh, and it's telling me it's going to be overdefined if I do that. So I'm going to say cancel. I might have clicked the wrong thing by mistake. Yeah, I did. All right. So sometimes if you click the wrong thing by mistake, it feels like you clicked the correct thing, but you didn't. It's going to say, hey, you're about to overdefine your drawing. And, you know, you'll be like, oh, shoot, how is that going to overdefine my drawing? So just cancel and try it again. And a lot of the time it'll work. It's just because your cursor made an inaccurate click. So, all right. So that one's going to be 4.5. And then we're going to go through and do each of those towers. This one is going to be 3.5, I believe. That one's 2.5. And then this last one is going to be 1.5. Oops. 1.5. All right. And then the last dimension that you need is from your three collinear lines here that you already added a relation to, the distance from there to that bottom line, and that's going to be 0.5. All right, and now your drawing should pretty much look like what's in the book. Does everyone have that so far? Cool. All right, so that's your first drawing. Let's see. And then you can, it tells you how to hide the sketch relation symbols. It tells you kind of what they mean. We kind of talked about that a little bit. So now let's try extruding it real quick. So what you're going to do, and we're going to keep this simple because we don't want to go too crazy. We're not really going to be extruding anything as an exercise yet this week. So I don't want to overload anybody with information or, confuse you about what's going on, but we'll just do it so you can see what it looks like. So you're going to go up to the upper left. You're going to click Exit Sketch. And you've got Sketch 2 here. If you click off of it, everything should look gray like this. So click back on your Sketch 2. You'll see all your dimensions show up. And then you're going to go over to Features. And you're going to click that first button there, Extruded Boss / Base. All right, and then you're just going to go through the little steps here. It's going to say From, and you're going to click Sketch Plane. It should be what's showing up as a default. It should be the first one in your menu, but just in case, that's going to say Sketch Plane. Direction is going to be blind. That means that it's basically just going away from you. This box you're going to leave empty. Right here you're going to say this is where you put in the depth of the extrusion. So that's how far you're extruding your part. So you're going to say, it's saying 6 inches. I'm not sure why, because we're working in meters right now, but we'll say 6 meters. And then it also says click the enabled reverse direction arrow, which is up here next to blind. So if you click that, it's going to change which way it extrudes. You can kind of see right here, my sketch is on the back side of this shape. If I click the button again, my sketch is on the front of the shape. And then you're not going to do anything with direction 2 or thin feature. You're just going to click the check mark for OK. And now you have a 3-dimensional part. So does everyone have that? It's pretty fun, huh? Oh, really? It might be the dimensions. You might have used different units. So when you extruded it, did you just put in 6? Oh, okay. All right. Um, And it's just getting like way too long as you're adding in the measurements. So when you add your vertical dimension, or your, your vertical dimensions, your top to bottom dimensions, it should fix that. It's going to be bigger than what you first sketched, but you can just zoom out. It's all relative to, what you're looking at on the screen. So it doesn't really matter. So start adding in those vertical dimensions and see how it looks once you get those. It should become proportionate. So if you go to, let's see, which page was that? You added, that was 3.14 or 3-14 for vertical dimensions. Okay. Yeah, and if you have to zoom out, don't worry about it. It's all relative. So the only thing that really matters is the dimensions you put in. Does anyone else have a question? All right. So one other thing I wanted to show you real quick, is let's go normal to our sketch again. Um, so we're in edit sketch. So click, well, let's get out of here so that I can make sure you're all on the same page. So if you click sketch 2 over here on the left, and then you go up to this little pencil in the upper left that says edit sketch when you hover over it. Go ahead and go there. Um, and I'm just going to show you real quick. We're going to add a circle. So one thing that I think you might have questions about, especially after working on this week's exercise, is how do I make a hole in my sketch? So like say I have a solid shape and then I draw a circle on top of it. It's going to look like a circle on top of a square or something. It's going to look like you just layered different shapes on each other. How do I make a hole that goes through the sketch? So I just wanted to show you real quick that if you draw a circle on top of your other shape, it's not going to just sit on top of it. It will, when you extrude the shape, it's going to be a hole in your shape. Um, so don't worry about how it looks in the actual sketch format. We're going to go like this. We're going to make a circle right here. We're just going to make it small. Um, I'm sorry? Cool. Nice. All right. So I just drew a circle on this shape here in my sketch. I'm going to click exit sketch, and you'll see once I exit the sketch, it actually is a hole in the drawing. Even though if I go back in and I edit the sketch, it looks like it's just sitting on top. So when you do your sketches and you are like, I want to drill a hole in this part, I want or I want to make a hollow thing, and you're like, why does this just look like it's sitting on top? How can I fix that? Don't worry about it. You don't need to fix it. It actually is going to show up as a hole through the part once you extrude the part. Does that make sense to everyone? I just want to make sure that I had that question off of the past because I know it's something that always comes up. So, all right. Is everyone getting close to finishing the exercise? Is anyone stuck? All right. Yeah. All right. You want me to walk you through that one more time real quick? All right. Well, oh yeah, I was just showing everybody real quick that if you draw a circle on top of your sketch, it's actually going to make a hole in the extruded part. So, it's going to look like it's just floating on top of your sketch there, but it's going to be a hole in the part. So, I just added that to show people. It's you don't need to add it in. But so, let's go to edit sketch and you'll see I just kind of well, now it's like crooked so you can tell, but I just drew a circle right there. I didn't do anything else. And once to you go and extrude your sketch, it's just going to be a hole in it. So that's always a question I was saying that comes up um, in class because people are like, why is this shape floating on top of this other shape? Like I want them to be, I want this to actually represent a hole in the part that I'm making. Um, and so I just wanted to make sure that like it does do that once you extrude it. So you don't need to worry about the fact that it looks kind of weird in your sketch. Um, so if everybody is comfortable with that sketch and doing the relations and everything, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through what our assignment is for next week. Is anyone not ready? Okay. Yeah, so if you click down on your scroll bar in the middle of your mouse, you just push down on it and then you just drag the mouse around. That's all that you have to do and it just moves the whole thing. And you can do it with a part here or you can do it just in your sketch. If you just go into your sketch and you want to move it around, you can do it there too. Yeah, so you'll be able to see the sketch that you made, and you'll be able to see that it's coming toward you from the sketch as opposed to going away from you. So, yeah, cool. All right. If uh if you're not sure, you can just if you just go back to your sketch, you just go edit sketch. All I did was I just clicked circle and I just drew a little circle there. That's it. Just hit the check mark, exit sketch, and you'll have a hole in your drawing. So now I've got two. Oh, like this way? You can. That's a little more complicated because you have to do a new sketch on that plane. So, if you all want to get super confused here. Yeah. So the way to do that, we'll go here. Uh, let's see. I'm gonna go sketch, sketch. I'm gonna select this front face here, and then I'm gonna draw a circle on it. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna go exit sketch, and it should. Oops. Mm. Oh, you know why? Because so I drew a circle, but I didn't extrude it. So now I've got to go here, and I'm gonna say which way? Oh, it's coming out toward me, so I want to direct it the other way. Um, and for let's see. Instead of blind, I want it to go through all. Hit the check mark. Oops. I think it's going to be a bar, not a, yeah. I just made a bar through everything instead of making a hole through everything. But you get the idea. We'll play around with that more later. I don't want to confuse everybody too much. Um, but as long as you are with me on the drawing and getting it all dimensioned and everything, that's what's important for today. So, uh, I'm sorry? Ooh, uh-oh. Hmm. Uh, if it's if it's not super important to you to save that thing you just drew, then it's no big deal because we're done for now. I'm gonna give you next week's assignment, but uh, if you're worried about it, then we can walk through after class if you want. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, it's always good to do things a few times your first time through, just so you remember all the steps and all the features you use to make a part. So yeah. So. Hmm. Oh, yeah. Where it like will autosave for you. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I would try reopening your SolidWorks and see what happens. I'm sorry? Okay. Yeah. So if that does exist, I'm sure you don't have it set up then, but I'll look into that and I'll let you know because I'm not sure if there is a feature like that. Um, One thing with SolidWorks that when I was taking the class, I kind of learned was save often, which I haven't been doing as I've walked you through this, but you just go file and then save your SolidWorks file. Um, just just click save frequently because it will crash, especially like on if you're using a computer that isn't totally, optimized to run SolidWorks. It's a pretty big piece of software, so um, it does tend to crash computers, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, that's something that I learned when I was doing projects for homework and stuff. Just save early and save often, and you won't have too many issues. Oh, perfect. Where did you find that? Okay, cool. All right. I'm trying to see if I can find it so I can show everybody. Um, there it is. Backup and recover. So it's a little bit up from the bottom. Um, yeah, save auto recover information every 10 minutes. All right, so and then it's just going to go to your auto recover folder, it looks like. And then you can make it save extra backups if you want to. But you can also have it show you a reminder if it hasn't saved your document for a while. So if you don't want to do the auto backup thing, or even if you do, but you also want to remind yourself to save your drawing, you can have it remind you every 20 minutes, or you can change that. Cool. All right, thanks for finding that. So let's go over next week's assignment really quick. I'm gonna publish this right now. Uh, let's see. Where are my assignments? There we go. All right. So lab one here. I'll go ahead and publish that so you can all see it. And so basically the lab is I'm going to give you a drawing. There's these two files here. So the second one is the one that I want you to try and copy. It's going to show a terminal block that would go on a piece of DIN rail. Um, so this is the drawing. It shows you all the dimensions in here. Obviously, it looks kind of complicated, but it's really not too bad. You're just going to do it in 2 dimensions. Over here it shows little broken out details. So this is detail C, which is this little part here. And it just blows it up so that you can see all the dimensions in that corner of the drawing. And then same right here, this is the same as this. So one thing when I took CAD 1, Jason gave us this, and I remember we were all really confused because this has dimensions, but this little shape here and this little shape here look different and they don't have dimensions. So what Jason told us was just copy this shape. Even though they look different on here, this drawing isn't super great. Um, but just copy the dimensions that are right here for this little shape here and this little shape up here. Um, it's not in the book. It's a drawing that I'm not sure where it came from, but it's a drawing of a terminal block that would mount on DIN rail. So electrical terminal blocks, the DIN rail would go in this slot right here. Okay. So basically, what you're gonna try and do is just copy this shape. And I know this is kind of a tricky one. There's a lot of dimensions going on here, so just do the best you can. Message me if you have questions. And I'll keep an eye on it. You know, I'll be on the lookout for messages and stuff. You can also come in Wednesday when I'm here in the lab and we can walk through any questions that you might have. But the basic, like, I guess, best way to start this is just go in. Let's do a new sketch. Uh, let's close this. Not gonna save it. Um, oops. Okay. So we're gonna do a new part. I'll just show you real quick. So it helps if you have two monitors because you can have one open on each screen and you can just kind of look back and forth. And if you want to do that, you can always come in here too and use a computer in the lab when the lab is open. So but the best way to start this is you're just going to start with a line. You're just going to start drawing the outline of the shape. So like we're going to go up, over. So it looks overwhelming when you first look at it, but like once you start making your outline here, you'll see it's really, yeah, and then you'll add in your dimensions afterwards. So you can see this doesn't look exactly like the drawing. I'm totally just freehanding it, but uh, we're kind of getting the basic idea anyway. So I can go super detailed, but I don't want to keep you here all night. But trying to get that arc to go the right direction. So I'm going to go over and then back to our beginning point. And you can see this looks very different from this shape, but it's pretty close. You've got all the lines that you need in here. And then stuff like this you can do afterwards. You can do your three little circles. Oops, that wasn't what I wanted. So we're going to do, and you can line these up afterwards using relations. Oops, we wanted circles inside the circles, and you can make these, if they don't come out exactly right, you can make these circles concentric using a relation afterward. So that's kind of a quick and dirty of how to get that sketched out. Yeah, absolutely. So you can just go do your, oops, I don't want to grab the shape. I just want to grab the circle. So, yeah, so it's basically just like, in like Microsoft Office, you do Control C and then you click somewhere else and you go Control V. So if you right click it, I don't think it gives you a copy option in here, but just use the keyboard, Control C, Control V, Control X to cut something. So Control X and then Control V to paste it back in. So yeah, and like if you just click on that circle and then Control You can also select the other circle and then go Control C and then paste them over here. So it's kind of like using, like the copy paste keyboard functions. It's the same as in like, Microsoft Office or whatever. So is everyone kind of on board? Yeah, so this is your actual part that you want to sketch. And all I want to see is an outline of this fully defined. So, so your dimensions don't all have to be in the exact same spot. Your drawing doesn't have to look like this drawing. I just want to see this shape fully defined, with this, the same dimensions as what's on here. And if you add in every single dimension that's on this drawing, you might end up with your drawing overdefined. So you just want to make sure that the drawing is fully defined and the dimensions you do have match. Um, and these two, this shape here and these are just detailed views of this drawing here. So like, you'll see this says detail C under it, and then you say, okay, where's detail C? That's this circled section right here. You can see that's the same shape. It's basically a blown up view of that part of the sketch so that you can actually see all the dimensions on it. And then this one is detail B. It's just a blown up view of this detail of the drawing right here. Does that make sense? All right. So if everyone's comfortable with that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. And then real quick, actually, Jason told me this is something that we need to do this quarter. Just a little housekeeping thing, but I just want to give you all a quick safety briefing with regard to COVID. If you come on campus, make sure that you check in. You can check in building 23 or building 17. You'll probably have to go to building 17 if it's later on in the day, like when I'm here, 3:30 to 7:30 or so. And there's a table in there, and they'll get you checked in and take your temperature. If you come on campus, you also need to wear a mask at all times. It's got to cover your mouth and nose. And if you're in the lab, make sure that you're 6 feet away from any other people as much as possible. Make sure you've always got your mask on, especially when other people are around. And yeah, that's it. Just had to share that real quick. Make sure that everybody's aware of the procedures. Also, if you haven't done it yet, I need you all to complete the syllabus quiz that's technically supposed to be done the first week. So if you could all get it done tonight, that'd be awesome. If you can't get it done till tomorrow, I'm not gonna fail you, but I will probably message you and be like, hey, are you gonna get this done? So just make sure that gets turned in. Your first lab is due tomorrow night at midnight, since I was late posting that lecture because it didn't record. So we'll make that due tomorrow night at midnight. Your lab for this coming week is due next Monday by midnight. So you have 1 week from today basically to complete it. I'll be here as always Wednesday from 3:30 to 7:30. Any questions, anyone? Yeah, so actually for this one and from here on out, if you want to send it to me as a JPEG and as a SolidWorks file, that would be great because I'm not always able to open the SolidWorks files depending on the version you have. So just to be on the safe side, I want to be able to see the JPEG so I can grade it. If I can open the SolidWorks file, I will, But if I can't, I don't want to have to be like, hey guys, can you turn it in again? So if you just want to submit both just to be safe, then that'd be super helpful. Okay. I'm pretty sure you. Okay. I'm pretty sure you can. I think I'll look into it. Maybe for now, if you want to email me your SolidWorks part file, you know what, this week just turn it in as a JPEG and we'll figure that out for next week. But just turn it in as a JPEG. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna take points off if you can't. So don't worry about it. Just turn it in as a JPEG for this week. We'll play around with it and figure it out. And if you're having trouble with your part, you can always email me the SolidWorks file and I can try and open it and see what's going on. So that's always an option if you have questions or anything like that. If you are having trouble getting something to work, you can always just email me. So, but yeah, I'll this week I'll just grade it based on the JPEG file you're able to send me. Anything else? Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So let's wrap up for now then. If nobody else has any questions, you can always message me afterwards, and yeah, go ahead and give me a call after we wrap up on Discord, and I'll be here for a little bit. All right. Is everyone else good? Michelle, did you say something? Oh, all right. Okay. Everyone else happy? All right. Everyone else sufficiently nervous about your assignment for next week? Okay. All right. If everybody's good, let's go ahead and wrap up, I guess. And I'll um talk to you all next week or Wednesday if you come in or if you need to message me about anything. All right.